Chris Parsons here from the Happy Healthy Marriage Reset. And today I want to talk about anxiety. A lot of my clients come in, their marriage is falling apart. They have a lot of anxiety. They're very anxious, worried about the future, don't know where things are going, whether they can be happy and stay together. And so dealing with that anxiety is one of the ways that I help my clients. It's not the primary thing that I do, but it is an important step in what we do. And there's 3 things that you need to do if you're dealing with anxiety. The first thing, which by the way is really common, so probably, I don't know if there's official statistics on this, but in my experience, I would say at least 50% of the population deals with at least low levels of frequent anxiety. And so, number 1 is to know that you're not alone to deal with this. Here's my perspective. Before we get into the 3 steps, I'll share my perspective on medication. And I'll tell you a bit about what happened to me and how I dealt with my anxiety. So when my marriage was falling apart and my finances, everything seemed to be happening all at once, all these bad things, I had a panic attack in bed one night. My wife was asleep and I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I was clenching my chest thinking, this is it. She's going to wake up in the morning. I'm going to be dead. And honestly, I was so miserable, so depressed that I wasn't even that upset about dying. I was just like, this is it. This is how it happens. I don't know. I was probably 32 at the time. So terrible anxiety, didn't know the tools or what to do with the anxiety. I ended up getting prescribed. I went to the doctor, I scheduled the appointment the next day to go to the doctor. I got prescribed, I think it was called Adipex, which helped. And so I took that for about 2 months, and it really did help. But my philosophy is that medication is there as a crutch, and I'm not against crutches. If you break your leg, you want a crutch, right? Don't take that as a negative thing when I say it's a crutch. But it is a crutch, and my goal is always to get off of medication because there are always side effects to every medication. And I want to deal with the root problem so that I do not need to continue taking medication. And here's what I discovered. There's 3 steps. The first step is to lower or eliminate caffeine. Caffeine, or any kind of upper, increases anxiety. My wife was getting these teas, and she started having terrible, debilitating anxiety. And she's like, I don't know what's going on. I'm like, there's like 8 cups of coffee worth of caffeine in this tea that you're drinking every day. Of course, it's skyrocketing your anxiety. She stopped drinking them, stopped having problems with anxiety. I still have some caffeine, still drink an occasional cup of coffee, but I don't do it every day. I actually just ordered, it's called mud water. I don't know, I can't recommend it. I haven't tried it yet, but supposedly a cleaner energy that doesn't increase anxiety. I'll let you know how it is. But when I choose to drink caffeine, I recognize the cost. If I have more than 1 cup of coffee, It's going to cause me to crash later in the day, and it's going to raise my anxiety. Even one cup of coffee will raise my anxiety. Now, when I don't have a problem in my life that is creating anxiety, then it's not too big of a deal because I have almost no anxiety and it raises it a little bit and it's not even noticeable. But when you're dealing with a lot of anxiety and that caffeine increases it, it can start to become unbearable. So step number one is to eliminate or reduce caffeine. Step number two is to eliminate or reduce easy sources of dopamine. What I mean by that is there are healthy ways to get dopamine. When you go out for a run or go lift weights, work out, that is a healthy way to get dopamine because you have to work for it. An easy source of dopamine is endlessly scrolling your phone, looking at social media or news, whatever. Anything where you're trying to distract yourself to feel better. People do it with food, video games, all sorts of things. Easy sources of dopamine are a bigger draw when you're anxious because you're trying to escape that anxious feeling. But they actually make the anxiety worse as soon as you're done looking at your phone or whatever. So step number two is to reduce or eliminate easy sources of dopamine like endless scrolling on your phone. Then step number three, this is really the key, is you have to deal with the problem and what is happening in your life that is creating the anxiety. And so if you're stressed about work and work is causing you anxiety, you have to figure out what is it about your job that is creating that anxiety and what can you do about it. The what can you do about it part is key. If your marriage is falling apart, things are bad, you're not sure that you're going to stay together, all these fears and worries and doubts, you have to focus on what can you do about it. And the Happy Healthy Marriage Reset coaching program is a great option because it gives you the tools, the guidance, and the support to do something with that. And really what you're doing here is focusing your attention on what you can control instead of focusing on all the things that you cannot control, like your spouse, your marriage, etc. Because when you focus on what you can control, you have the power to influence the things that you cannot control. And when you're focused on what you can control, there's no anxiety because you can take actions. I'm upset about this. Okay, take an action to do something about it. I'm scared about this. Okay, take an action to do something about it. All right? Instead of letting your feelings consume, override, and overrule you, you process those feelings to recognize that there is an action that you can take that utilizes those feelings. We don't try to control our feelings. We don't try to ignore, dismiss, or change our feelings. We acknowledge them and then we look for something we can do that gets us closer to what we want out of life and our marriage. So if you're struggling with anxiety, the 3 steps are: number 1, eliminate or reduce caffeine. Number 2 is to stop getting easy sources of dopamine, reduce or eliminate easy sources of dopamine. And step number 3 is to acknowledge the feeling and look for something you can do about it, so that you can focus on what you can control instead of what you can't control. Finally, I've got a bonus one for you. This is a tool that I help do with my clients, and it's hypnosis. Now, I've been researching hypnosis for over a year. I've been studying the subconscious mind and how all of that works for the better part of a decade. And most hypnosis is poorly utilized because it's a tool, and people, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And so hypnosis cannot solve anxiety by itself, because you still have to look at the other 3 factors of things that are causing the anxiety to deal with that. However, as a nice bonus, hypnosis really helps to relax, to imagine a better future, to imagine your happy, healthy marriage, and to be able to let go of all the feelings that you're feeling and just be relaxed, right? I'm not talking about, making people cluck like a chicken on a stage. I have to say, I have plenty of doubts about how effective that type of hypnosis is. The type of hypnosis I'm talking about is simply a method for relaxation in order to allow you to process your feelings, let go of them without judgment. All right, my friends, I hope you found that helpful. We'll talk soon.